To the full view, tonight we're asking if the ANC's candidate is suitable for one of the key posts in the country. Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, who President Cyril Ramaphosa removed as the Defence and Military Veterans Minister last week, is now the ANC's candidate to become the new Speaker of the National Assembly. The President appointed Thandi Modise, who was the Speaker, to Mapisa-Nqakula's former post as Defence Minister. To discuss, we're joined by political commentator Makhosini Mgitywa. Mr. Mgitywa, thank you for being with us. First, let's look at the move. Thandi Modise moving out of Parliament. She was very effective there, and many see this as a blow for Parliament. We'll talk about her specifically a little bit later on because she's being sworn in tonight. But some have questioned the motives or the thinking of the President because this post is so important of even moving her in the first place. So can we start there? Can you compare Speaker of the National Assembly versus a Defence Minister in terms of the clout and importance of those positions?
Look, I think theoretically, this is a demotion for Thandi Modise in that as Speaker, she is the head of a branch of the state that is independent of the executive and the judiciary, which is the legislature. And the salary is that of a deputy president, equal to that. So definitely she's taking a demotion in this instance. But it is understandable because due to the electoral system that we have in South Africa, that which is a proportional representation, which means that as Speaker of Parliament, she's put there by the ANC leadership, including President Ramaphosa. And for her to move to the Department of Defense as Minister, it simply means that she will have more power, she'll have more clout, she'll be in the executive. But also, there are a lot of perks that come with the position of Defense Minister. It's not just like any other ministry. I think she would have access to, Air Force Jet and other perks. It is a position that has got a lot of street cred, if I can put it that way. But I don't like the fact that the President has to take from Parliament and take the Speaker particularly, because it simply means that over time we can erode the importance of Parliament, in that you can have a Speaker that would want to ingratiate him or herself with the President with the hope that the President may appoint them. But also, it just simply means that as a country, we do not take Parliament as seriously as we should, and we do pay a price for that, in that we end up sometimes having a Parliament that does not exercise its duties the way it's supposed to. It's sometimes seen to be, agreeing with anything and everything that the executive is doing. That is dangerous. I don't think that's good for democracy. But that having been done, we have to look at the situation that obtains in the country right now. We've just had an intelligence failure, or whatever you may call it, in the past several weeks, which left more than 300 people dead. That, many accounts, was the failure of the state to prevent those deaths. So if the President, looking at his dashboard, where he lacks and where he's got capacity, deciding that he can take from a member of his own party somebody with a very long history of as a military veteran, somebody who shows that she can command the situation. The generals in the army would listen to her. So in that respect, I think it was a good appointment.
All right. In light of what you've said about the importance of Parliament, though, then what do you think of Mapisa-Nqakula coming in as the Speaker of the National Assembly? The acting chair of the ANC caucus said, as a former chief whip of the party, also chairperson of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, the former minister brings a formidable wealth of experience and a solid track record. What do you make of her?
Look, I think there are issues that we should be concerned about, including the lack of a generational mix within Parliament, so that you have somebody of Mapisa-Nqakula's age ascending to be Speaker. And I think there could be some grievances around that. But, internationally...
Why? Can you explain that?
Internationally, it is a norm that... sorry, what do you want me to explain?
You're saying there may be an issue about her age. Can you explain that?
No, I'm saying that, there are many people in the country who feel that there is a lack of generational mix within the leadership.
So a younger person would have been better then?
They would think that a younger person. But what I'm saying is that, if you look internationally, it is the norm that people serve as members of parliament, and towards their retirement, or when they've gained experience, they become speaker. Speaker Nancy Pelosi in the United States, for instance, is close to 80 years old. So there's nothing untoward or irregular about that, in my view. But having said all that, I think the most important thing is that you have somebody who has the experience, who has the respect of her peers. Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula has, Hello, am I still with you?
Carry on, yes. We lost your visual for a while, but we can now actually see you again, and we heard you the whole time. Carry on, Mr. Mgitywa.
Somebody was trying to call me. So what I'm saying is, I think she has the gravitas. I think she has the presence. I think she commands attention when she speaks. And I think what I like about the appointment of Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula is that in the recent history, she has contradicted the president when she was in the executive. So this suggests to me that this is someone with an independent mind, somebody who could be able to hold the executive accountable, and even the president. So to have as a speaker somebody who has shown independence and a willingness to contradict the president, I think that would be a better choice for speaker than somebody who's going to be the president's yes man or yes woman.
Okay, that's an interesting take on somebody contradicting their boss. So is there no danger here that she was ineffective as defense minister and therefore was reshuffled, essentially fired, and now she's going to Parliament, and that could weaken Parliament? So you're saying that concern is out the window?
Let me tell you something that I've observed about President Ramaphosa, and I would say this without any fear of contradiction. He hates firing ministers. And it was presented as a resignation. Zweli Mkhize, whom he had every reason to fire, it was a resignation. Tito Mboweni, he asked to be relieved of his duty. So he doesn't like firing ministers, and I think even his posture is that of communicating that I'm not firing this person, I'm moving her from this position to another one where I think should be more suited, and I'll get somebody here who's going to be perhaps more aligned with my thinking, and that we can proceed and together and have confidence in each other. So the president doesn't like firing ministers, and I think this is a clear demonstration that Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula was not fired, as it were, but she was moved to another position, and in fact, she was promoted.
Yeah, he even said she will be redeployed, but of course he can't say she will be going to Parliament because Parliament still has to effectively elect her. Is it a problem that the president doesn't like to fire anyone? Because after the looting, there was a sense that someone in the security cluster should actually get fired, meaning they lose some of their cushy perks for not doing their job. But Becky Cele remains police minister. Ayanda Dlodlo was moved, but she's been given public service and administration. And now you're saying this is a promotion for Mapisa-Nqakula. So in effect, nobody was punished in any way for South Africa not seeing the violence coming and not stopping it for days.
What I'm going to say is not to justify the president's action, but to explain it. The president was elected in 2017 at Nasrec with the narrowest of margins. He does not have the kind of constituency that President Jacob Zuma had in his first term, or the constituency that Thabo Mbeki had in his first term. He was instead given a coalition to govern. That is very difficult between the so-called RET forces and his own faction. So the two are combined, having to work together. So I think that it could very well be that he's looking at the next local government election, knowing that if he rocks the boat, some of the people who is supposed to be campaigning for the ANC and helping the ANC win, so that under his leadership, the ANC in the local government elections can do better than 2016. There is also the elective conference of the ANC that's coming in 2022. And again, I think he has to manage the situation so that he does not emerge out of that a weaker president already is. So he wants to emerge stronger, and you do that by making sure that you coalesce people around you. I think we'll see a different President Cyril Ramaphosa after 2022 and certainly after 2024, because then South African presidents, become more powerful in the second term. And I think that would be the case with him. That's when we'll see whether he will fire people or not.
Yeah.
But for now, I think the decision is that he's not going to rock the boat. That is not good, to answer your question. That is not good, because if other ministers have seen that, it just simply means that they're not going to work as hard, because they know that the president doesn't have the confidence or doesn't have the political capital to fire.
Yeah, you're basically saying he doesn't have a free hand to pick and choose his own executive, in effect.
Of course he doesn't. Of course he doesn't. That's what happens. And so as South Africans, we have to get used to this, because it looks like we're moving towards coalition governments. We've had a coalition government in the city of Johannesburg, Pretoria and other places. And, we will have provinces that will be governed by coalitions. And it may happen at some point that at national, we may have a coalition. And managing a coalition really is about, it's compromise more than anything. And I can't think of a person better qualified to manage a coalition than President Cyril Ramaphosa. I think it is in his nature to try to bring people together, to have people coalesce around it.
All right, let's return to Mapisa-Nqakula. Let's just look at some of the things that were said about Thandi Modise. One, that she restored stability to Parliament, and I guess a lot of that has to do with how she dealt with opposition MPs, and maybe the EFF is crucial here. Do you think Mapisa-Nqakula will have that same stabilizing sense? And start there, and then we'll look at other things that she did, which one of them included apologizing for state capture.
I think let's call a spade a spade. We know that disruptions in Parliament come mainly from the EFF, rightly or wrongly. And it is important that the person who's sitting as Speaker is somebody who enjoys the respect of Julius Malema in particular, and the EFF in general. And I think many people would have observed by now that I think due to his own upbringing, having been raised by women, Julius Malema tends to be more respectful to older women. And I think, the former Speaker, Thandi Modise, benefited from that, and it could very well be that Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula will also benefit from that. And I've seen some of the leaders of the EFF having some nice things to say about Mapisa-Nqakula, and I think that would put her in a better position to be able to control the situation in Parliament.
And then let's look about the role of Parliament itself. It's become so important because people are looking back and saying, where was Parliament around state capture, for example? And one thing Thandi Modise did was tell the Zondo Commission it is regrettable that there was an impression that Parliament woke up too late. And she said, for that, we must apologise to the South African people. Do you think we have, as South Africans, a new appreciation for what Parliament should be doing?
I don't think that we do have that appreciation. The fact that we still have a proportional representation and there's nobody who's making any noise about it just simply means that we don't appreciate how disenfranchising the system is to us, because everyone who is in Parliament is put there by their political party, and therefore they are answerable there to their political party. That is why we had the lapse that we had in the previous administration, especially around the Nkandla matter, because the ANC MPs, using their majority and following party orders, made sure that the former president was not held to account as many people would have wanted him to be held to account. But if we had a constituency system, then members of Parliament are answerable and accountable to their constituencies. And sometimes they would go, it happens in other countries, where they would go to back when there is a matter that needs to be decided in Parliament, they go to their constituencies to get a mandate. We don't have that in South Africa, and it is disenfranchising us. That's why we had state capture. If we had members of Parliament that were answerable and accountable to their constituencies, there would have been more accountability on the part of the executive. So I think this is a conversation that we need to have as South Africans. There was a commission that was set up to look into this matter, which recommended, I think it was Francis Laber during the time of Thabo Mbeki, which recommended, a hybrid between constituency system and a proportional representation system. Why it's not being, applied, that recommendation, it's everybody's guess. But I think that party leaders, President Ramaphosa included, they enjoy the power that the proportional representation system gives them as party bosses. And I think it's for us as citizens to take that power back and want to elect our own members of parliament who are going to represent us and representing their constituencies and not necessarily the party that elects them. We also even talk about electing the president directly, so that you have a president that's more accountable to the people, that gets a mandate from the people and has more power, therefore, to implement and to do things that they want to do. But also that comes with its own risk, because you can have a president like they had in the United States, in Donald Trump, who just goes berserk and does things that are against the norm, and people do not have the power to hold him accountable that much. So that's why it's important, I think, for us to follow the recommendations of that commission, which spoke about the hybrid between constituency system and the proportional representation system. As long as we have the proportional representation system, in my view, at the very least, we are going to have a parliament that doesn't have as much teeth as it should have, that cannot hold the executive to account as much as it should.
So these are big issues that the incoming Speaker of the National Assembly has to consider. And let's just be clear, we're talking about her as the Speaker. Mapisa-Nqakula still has to be elected by the ANC, but because it's got a majority, she is a shoo-in, right? And then what about the Deputy Speaker, Lechesa Tsenoli, who's done pretty well as well? He's been keeping the seat warm, as it were.
Look, I think there is something in South Africa that we tend to ignore, that, in the executive, we've never had a woman president or a woman deputy president. We've never had a woman chief justice. At the very least, let's ring fence Parliament. Since its inception in 1994, it's had women speakers. I think may have been one in Mr. Sisulu at some point. But I think it's important for us as South Africans, and women being the majority in the country, that they should be represented. And I think it's a good thing that we have a woman as a Speaker of Parliament. The Deputy Speaker still enjoys a great deal of influence, and we've seen the current Deputy Speaker, showing that, he is not just there for the numbers, that he is there because he deserves to be there. But I think it's a good thing that we have a woman for a Speaker.
Okay, Makhosini, on that note, 2 women are going to be sworn in today, one as a minister, one as a deputy minister, including Thandi Modise, who's the former Speaker of the National Assembly, now moved to the Ministry of Defence. And I can tell you that we are getting visuals from the union buildings, but the President hasn't walked in yet. The Acting Chief Justice not there at the moment. As soon as those proceedings get underway, we will take you live. But we are with political commentator Makhosini Mgitywa, and maybe you can talk about Thandi Modise, what she should be prioritising now as Minister of Defence.
I think what is important, especially given the reports that we've been, getting, such as that the army is now guarding the SABC and other places. And I think it's important for us as South Africans to know exactly what is happening. And it's important for us to have a Minister of Defence who is going to be, open with us to tell us exactly what the thinking behind that is. Because, for some of us who have observed situations deteriorate elsewhere on the continent, where sometimes the army is used for political purposes, it's important for us to be vigilant, and it's important for us to get that communication. I think those are some of the things that would be top of the draw for her to attend to. And also, it's important that we have an army that is capable, because some of the things that we've seen suggest to us that, we have an army that is beset with problems. There have been reports of corruption and all those things. And the primary function of the state is to protect its citizens. And we rely on the South African National Defence Force to protect us. and we want them to be at the barracks to guard our borders so that our borders aren't as porous as they are. We don't want to see the army amongst us civilians. They must be there guarding those things, and I think those are very important things for her to attend to, so that if indeed it is necessary for the army to be out there with us in the public, at least we understand why that is happening. But I am confident that she is someone who is level-headed. She's someone who's rooted in the ANC. Not many scandals that would suggest dishonesty on her part. I think she would have one or two issues in the past. But I mean, that's the norm in the ANC, that you can't find somebody with a thin slate. But I think given the crop of leaders that President Ramaphosa had to choose from, I think she was a very good choice.
And then we have another deputy minister being sworn in, and at 49, she's one of the youngest ministers in the cabinet. You were talking earlier about a generational mix, that we need that in Parliament. Are you concerned that we're still not seeing that in any shape or form? In fact, the cabinet reshuffle was often moving the same faces to different positions.
Look, we do have a problem, and in so many respects we have regressed. That is proof. In so many respects we've regressed. Tito Mboweni was a minister, I think, in 1994. You can imagine how young he was. There were other many. Mani Tito, for instance, in the Northern Cape, was very young. And I think this is reflecting what is happening within the ANC. Because with the slowing down or weakening of the ANC Youth League, it just simply means that there was no one to
All right, Makhosini, I apologize. I have to cut you off there. Thank you for that incredibly thoughtful analysis. But what you can see there is the President and Justice Raymond Zondo